It may be hard to believe, but for about 2 years we have entered the 9th generation of video games, a generation that began with the launch of consoles Xbox Series X, S and PlayStation 5. The shortage of parts and the decline in production of these consoles have caused these devices to be sold at a staggering price. So far, many gamers have failed to buy their favorite next-generation console. But these issues have not caused rumors of new models from Sony and Microsoft consoles. Recently, TCL held a conference that mentioned the possibility of launching new, mid-generational consoles of Sony and Microsoft called the PS5 Pro and Xbox Series X, S Pro in 2023 or 2024. It turns out that these consoles will be able to run different games with 4K resolution and 60 to 120 frame rates. These capabilities have become possible thanks to AMD's new graphics technology called RDNA 3. This news is currently a rumor because the scope of TCL technology is the source of news, displays and monitors, and not the parts needed in the construction of the console, so it is not possible to speak confidently about the authenticity of these rumors. But on the other hand, TCL may be building displays that are compatible with Sony and Microsoft mid-generational consoles. As a result, it doesn't seem an unlikely matter that TCL knows about the release of new PlayStation and Xbox models. In these circumstances, regardless of the correctness or inaccuracy of rumors, the fundamental question that arises is, do we need the PS5 Pro and Xbox Series X Pro in this generation? It is not surprising that this question itself raises other questions, which we need to study the market situation in the last few years to answer. As you know, the PS4 Pro came out in 2016 and Xbox One X in 2017. These upgraded consoles were able to deliver much better performance in running different games compared to the original models, especially the Xbox One X console, which largely fixed Xbox One's problems running multi-platform games. At the time, it was very easy to find and buy the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and the lack of parts was practically non-existent. On the other hand, at that time, intergenerational games were presented sporadically and limited to shooter and sports titles targeting a large part of the gaming community for selling more. In those years, many exclusive games had been released by Sony and Microsoft, and most developers had found out how to use the maximum power of 8th generation consoles. Thereby introducing more advanced consoles meant improving the gaming experience of players and producing more attractive titles. The issues we face in the current market are largely different from the challenges faced by the last generation. Currently, it seems that consoles manufactured by Sony and Microsoft are not responding to the high demand of customers. Sony recently launched a new model of the PlayStation 5 to ease the problem of supply limits for consoles needed by players. Another issue is that, presumably, the dilemma of the shortage of parts will not be resolved in the coming months. Consequently, from an economic standpoint, spending a lot of funds to build and create a new production line with fresh parts doesn't make sense. In these circumstances, finding solutions to the problem of lack of parts and producing as many consoles as possible with the hardware that millions of people have purchased makes a far more logical decision. This is probably more true of Sony because Microsoft started the 9th generation with 2 types of X and S series consoles. Those who plan to have a great gaming experience can buy the Xbox X series with the computing power of 12 teraflops. If Microsoft introduces a new Xbox with more power in these circumstances, the purchase of the Xbox Series X console will be virtually questioned by millions of people. Another part of this category concerns the games that have been released so far in this generation. COVID-19 pandemic greatly affected the gaming community, and so far we have not left behind the bad effects of the virus on the video game industry. The release of many games has been postponed and the mood of developers is at an all-time low. Perhaps Microsoft's current situation is good thanks to Xbox Game Pass successes, but the lack of next-generation games is an issue that has caused a lot of criticism from the company. Microsoft has already released Medium and Microsoft Flight Simulator titles under contract in cooperation with third-party studios, both of which are very good games. However, there is no information yet on the release dates of Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2 and Stalker 2. While the PlayStation has done a little better in this regard, and with the release of attractive games such as Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart and Horizon Forbidden West, it has proved in practice that it has good ideas for the 9th generation. Nevertheless, the issue that everyone agrees on is that all the capacity and power of the 9th generation consoles has not yet been used. Many third-party games continue to be available for the 8th generation. Given that Sony and Microsoft's mid-generational consoles are supposed to run games with 4K resolution, introducing and supplying them in the current situation doesn't make much sense, as current consoles are also able to run different games of this quality. Another issue to mention is how to use new updates on previous intergenerational consoles. The PlayStation 4 Pro and Xbox One X were far more powerful than the base types, but software updates were provided based on the power of the base models. In fact, if a game had not been played on the PS4, it would not have been possible to experience it on the PS4 Pro even though it was more powerful, and this calls into question the payment of more money by the gamer to buy mid-generational models. If the new PlayStation 5 Pro and Xbox are to be used in the same way, few players will buy them because the not-so-great upgrade of visual quality of images cannot justify buying a console at a far greater price than the base models. In the end, we recall the question we posed at the beginning of the video. Do we need the new PS5 Pro and Xbox Series right now? No. Will there be a need for intergenerational consoles in the coming years? The answer to this question is difficult because it is currently unclear how long the problem of parts shortages will persist. On the other hand, there is not much information about the true power of the 9th generation consoles. Once this is known, it will be much easier to answer the question we asked at the beginning. Nevertheless, the rumor of the release of Sony and Microsoft's upgraded consoles, which began at the TCL conference, is not going to be forgotten, and regardless of whether this is true or not, the discussion on this issue will continue. Currently, given the reasons cited in this video, it can be said with certainty that the supply of intergenerational consoles in the near future has no logical justification.